Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Wait, you can send it straight from your laptop.
Okay, I just need connection.
So, internet connection or just physical connection to the display?
Oh. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. So we've got USB-C, PowerPoint, and HDMI.
Okay, and the HDMIs provide the network?
Oh, okay. And yeah, so go to _cloud.
Yes.
And register there, and it's really good internet. So just get yourself connected there, because it's easier if it's from your laptop.
Yeah, definitely. That's what the question. Yeah.
Yeah. So good morning, everyone. People are rolling in. It was a late night for many after what seemed to have been the beginning party that started at TADSummit and went on to several different parties around London. So what I'm suggesting is I'm going to keep my welcome for day 2 really short. So we'll get going at about 9:15. Okay? Yes. We have a USB-C adapter as well, but
you know, just the new ones. So, maybe no. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. Go.
Perfect. Okay, we'll just leave that there. I mean, so when I invite you up, we just go. Okay?
Okay, and just disconnect or.
You can leave it up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I live along a muddy road, so my shoes are absolutely wrecked. All the rain and the flooding and stuff, no, it's not great. It's not too bad where I am. I'm kind of running to a small river. It's really about that far from you. It's hot. It's, about here to the screen away from the river, so it will be right. But the kids, they're more restrictions. Schools kind of stuff. So, yeah, it sounds really right. Another place to go to. Okay, right. Morning.
Good morning.
Right, keep it up.
Okay, welcome back. So we are now on day 2. So let me give you a quick rundown. So yesterday we started with a lot of streaming problems, but we got those resolved. So we're now live streaming fine. Lighting is terrible here, so I'm going to get that changed in a minute. But yesterday was intense. We kicked off with a couple of excellent keynotes, thanks to Jerome and to Jonathan. And I think you can say that the panel discussions we had throughout the day were quite active, to say the least, especially when I wasn't asking any of the prepared questions. It was basically just an audience panel discussion. So what we've got lined up for today is, again, I apologize, another intense day. So we're going to kick off with more of a practical focus today. So we're going to have a case study on Oiseau deployment. Then we're going to go on to Greg on cloud native apps. And then to Abhijit, who will be covering identity authentication and programmable telecoms. Then we've got another session in the morning. One of the presentations will be remote. So Gavin can't make it, but he'll be giving his session remotely. And then we've got 2 great case studies from Karel, Lewis. And then in the afternoon, it's just going to be all the way through. So no break. So if you need to take a break, just pop out, where we've got a lot of really interesting presentations around innovation. And we'll have some discussions around that. And we will be leaving the best until last. Unfortunately, Simon's not here to appreciate that praise. But we will have a closing keynote. Now, okay, yes. He wants to refer to it as a specific gendered piece of genitalia. I felt that was a little biased and we should leave it more sort of gender neutral, but I'll let him do his presentation as the closing keynote. So we've got a long day ahead, but I would now like to invite Thibaut, if you can come on down and give us the first presentation of the day, which, after all the partying last night, is the hardest session.
As usual. Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Just logging. So, yes, I'm here to provide you some feedback from the field today. But I first of all would like to thank Martin, who will give me the idea yesterday to make a full logo first introduction of myself. So who am I? My name is Thibaut Prudhomme. I'm a 47 years old Frenchie who loves rugby, Allez les Bleus and Vive le Coq. And I'm a father of 2 sons, 2 teenagers, 2 boys. And I love scuba diving and also riding my old-fashioned scooter. Okay, but more seriously, I'm for 22 years in the IT industry, and I spent almost 8 of the last years in the open source project and basically open source companies. One of them was called Innovance, where I joined in 2011. It was dedicated on the OpenStack area. We are one of the top 10 contributors in this project. And then we have been acquired by one of the major open source players now, which is Red Hat, in 2014, and where I was dealing also with OpenStack, and I work a lot with telcos in the NFV or SDN part of the OpenStack, but as well also OpenShift, the round logo, which is the Kubernetes enterprise product in the Red Hat portfolio, as well as Ansible. And now I joined Wazo 7 months ago as a business development to promote and to find new opportunities in the programmable space, telco space. Okay. So today I will present you a case studies that we are working on the UK company who try to find a new way to growth but as Jérôme said yesterday, I love these slides because we do provide today a fully cloud native programmable platforms that could bring off the shelf solution, such as a portal and also the mobile application, desktop applications, or even the web applications, but also provide a full API-centric approach, which is completely programmable, and that allows new players and other companies to maybe reinvent and find a new market by using our technology, our products. So the company profile of the case studies I'm talking about is UK providers for small businesses. They were firstly providing internet fiber, as well as a broadband unlimited business broadband. And also, they are also creating a website for small companies. But in order to find a new way and growth, they wanted to say, all right, maybe the VoIP might be a good product in our portfolio. And the profile of the guys are mainly front-end developers and also sales reps. So approximately 35 sales reps calling small businesses here in the UK space, and then front-end developers creating websites. So they saw a massive opportunity here with the extension of the PSTN globally here in the UK market, but everywhere in Europe, and they come to the conclusion that the large enterprise were already equipped by telephony and VoIP, but the small businesses remains largely not addressed. So that's one of the reasons they go to that, and their ambition is really to flood the market, flood the SME market, have a rapid increase in market share and gain rapidly market share, and focusing on client acquisitions. So they were using a VoIP solution for the internal sales force to contact small businesses, and they decided first to capitalize on these solutions to create a new service offering. But after so they gain something like 700, 800 seats, between 1 to 10 seats per company, and they just quickly realized that provisioning and manually provisioning a large number of small accounts was quite expensive and not a sustainable and scalable business. They were using bulk cloud for the things. that's the reason why they came to us, and they find us as a fully programmable platform. And the idea was to create a full end-to-end automated workflow using, of course, APIs from the online subscription from a portal to the user account provisioning. And the idea was to no hand task anymore, and of course to serve a better user experience. So here is the main step of how they realized that using our APIs. The first step was to creating, of course, a tenant. Then create an application tenant, and then go to the SIP trunking, and with the endpoint, and then go to the user space. But I'm sure you all know that all these steps quite pretty well. Then provisioning the user account, all the lines, applications, and SIP. And then go to the routing part of the ID extension, and associate the DID, and creating routing rules and with associated rights for the users. Okay, now just behind the scene, how it looks like from a WASO, I would say, architecture and piece of pieces. So. Maybe it's a re-edit of what Jérôme said yesterday, but the WASO platform looks like with a backend based on PostgreSQL for all the telecom, using Asterix as a back-to-back user agent, and also Camilio for all the class 4 aspect, and the SIP router, as well as the whole, I would say, border align and SBCs, and for using Camilio. And then we expose for each of these pieces APIs, REST APIs, or even webhook or web sockets to allow the developer and to provision automatically and fully end-to-end provisioning systems. So here is another picture of what looks like the WASO stacks, and from the pure technical layers. So the Rabbit, thank you for the messaging system, the console for the discovery services system. We relies on Debian, and so Postgre as well. Then comes the pure engine, I would say, layer. Asterix, Camilio, and also RTP engines. Then the business with plenty of feature provided by the stacks, and then expose the apps, I would say, layers. But operating such a stack with only front-end developers might be tricky things for them. So we decide with them to rely on one of our partners to provide them a WASO manage as a first step, in order to them to go rapid to go to the market, and also they will of course keep the option for to re-internalize the WASO stacks in a second step, maybe in the future, what allows them to also go to learn how to operate these stacks. That's it. It was quite rapid. Any question, maybe?
Yes, please. Thank you. So you mentioned you're using Asterix as a back-to-back user agent.
Yeah.
Are you handling the media in Asterix or just on the RTP engine?
I guess is on the RTP engine. I'm not a full technical guy in the telco space, but yes, I guess it's the RTP engine. Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, then thank you very much for getting us.
My pleasure.
Excellent. Again, Thibaut, well done. So, Greg, if you would come on down. Now, Greg has been part of TADSummit for many years in a number of brands.
Yes.
Always himself, but with T-Mobile, I think we had you presenting several times, and then as Telestats, and then I'm trying to think last year. You were Uber last year?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so this is your second year. So I will hand over. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Alan. So you did a short introduction about me. So I was curious about this presentation because it's a little bit different versus a presentation which we had yesterday. But thanks, you did some introduction about OpenStack, OpenShift, and this stuff, which is, in my opinion, going to the cloud is very important aspect of real-time services, and I'm gonna to tackle this topic right now. About me, so I worked many years for DT Group in T-Mobile, working in Poland, cooperated at group level. We know Sebastian for many years from that time, leading something what was called Open Development Community. It still exists. I'm surprised and happy about that. Then moved away from this, let's say, pure telco world and worked 2 years for Telestacks, and then came back to Poland and working for OVO. Okay, I forgot to mention. Privately, I'm ultra runner. So I'm doing this, let's say, crazy stuff, running 2 days without sleeping and so on. About OVO, it's Polish company. We grown organically. It was set up in 2012 by 2 co-founders, and we are providing services mainly to mobile operators like T-Mobile, Orange, Play. However, we are building Avocado. It's our brand for products. And what we were able to do, we consolidated almost all technical skills in who are able to develop in Java. We don't have Erlang developers. They are all in Sweden. But in terms of Java, yes, I suppose that we have the strongest team maybe in Europe. Our customers, as I mentioned, we have as well customer in Saudi. Shortly, our products. So we have OCS. This is something what I'm really happy about and proud that we are able to take our experience and implemented application which is cloud native. And so this is actually subject of this presentation as well. Messaging gateway is implemented in the same way. However, we have such stuff like service broker, prepaid call control, TAS, MMTel, you know, this stuff, which is known from telco world. And it's short recap of the presentation which I had last year. It was more theoretical. Right now, I'm gonna to show after 1 year how what happened. So first. The data demands are growing, and here's nice slide showing. I hope so that you see it, but it shows between 28 and 24. Sorry, 18 and 24. Depend on region. It goes like 6, 5, 9 times more data consumption per month. So Alan said that 4G is enough. I agree, but if we take into account that in few years we will consume much more data, and this is definitely true, the 4G is not enough. We don't have enough density. This is the problem. That's why, of course, this is huge hype about 5G and so on. But at the end of the day, it's about how your data can be delivered, either from big antennas or smaller ones which are around us and can provide us a lot of data. Different use cases. I don't want to bother you about that, but the important is that except watching Netflix, YouTube, we'll have such use cases like self-driving cars. Somebody can think, okay, this is dream, but those cars are now driving. Maybe not at public transport, but yes, we have such cars already. And there are different use cases which require extremely low latency. This is important to understand that. Different use cases, VR, augmented reality, and so on and so on. Huge data consumption. So on one side, we are consuming a lot of data. On the other side, we would like to have extremely responsive service. And this is something what is hard to achieve using current technologies which are in backend. But what are real market drivers? This is what is happening now. This picture about this fire is something what happened in Poland at the beginning of this year. It was 31st of January, and whole data center, the biggest one of the biggest operator in Poland, burned completely. Actually, it wasn't the problem of data center because data center was here, and here was some storage, and this storage was the problem. But at the end of the day, 500 racks were flooded because a fireman wanted to do something. The problem after that was that except many platforms which were there, they didn't have geo-redundancy. It was one problem. The second problem was that they were implemented in a classical way, deployed in a classical way. So redeployment them in another location was like 2 or 3 weeks of working, 24 hours, and people were sleeping in data center and doing this job. Other problems like that, trade war. So nowadays people think, okay, maybe Huawei is not the best choice for my stack, and so on. We don't know how it will, what will be the result, but people are starting to thinking which technology, which solution we should use. We are about before. It depends who you ask, but let's say financial crisis. There is some rumor about that. So at the end of the day, we see that we have to be lean and we have to react quickly. Technology drivers. So from the development process, application architecture, the technology is changing. And it is mostly, let's say, in the IT world. Telco is right now concentrated at creating standards. This is good, but the question is that we have enough time to do so. So that's why I showed different angles. What is happening? Where we should go. What is the problem with current deployments? And so lack of service separation. We have, let's say, common middleware, and we have few services which are working on top of that. And if something happens wrong with one of them, then we have problem. Monolithic big applications, heavy. The consequence is we have heavy regression testing because inter services dependency. The deployment process is complicated. Heavy acceptance testing and scalability. It was hard to convince customers about scalability because voice is not scaling. The traffic is quite stable, but in new services, it is something what is crucial because then we don't know how customers will use services. And few examples. Sorry, this is, let's say, something to show you what I mean. So let's suppose that we have something what is called SDP platform, and we have few services. Nevertheless, what services they are? Let's say prepaid VPN, some number translation, and so on. And then something happens with one of them, and actually we have a problem and emergency because the whole platform is impacted. And this is real case. So if you want to deploy new service, it's a lot of testing, regression, and so on, because everybody is scared about those services. Nevertheless, what this service do? It could be some proof of concept, which we would like to realize in, let's say, 6 weeks in Scrum mode. It's not possible, honestly speaking. People are scared about deploying new services in network, and if you want to have, let's say, a new version of service, then we have to replace some common libraries and so on, which impacts other services, another use case. If we want to have some specific service for niche customers, then it's again we can do this proof of concept, but we are not able to do that quickly because people are scared about the platform because that can impact other services. And the last topic is low latency. And right now, if we have customer who is using the service, let's say it's at home network, is using service from backend or internet. In a visited network, have to go through home network and then backend and internet. And imagine that we would like to deploy a vehicle to X or VR service. So if we have it here or here, the latency, you can imagine what is like 200, 300 milliseconds, something around that. Not sure that it can be faster, and for such services, it's not acceptable at all. That's why we have to think about edge cloud. This is space for edge computing, and deploys those services either at the edge of home network, or I found last time very reasonable use case showing why we should deploy services at the edge of visited network. So imagine that you are US customer and traveling to Asia and using service from US. Imagine that you have to go over the ocean. It's not acceptable from latency, from quality perspective, and so on. That's why those services should follow you. If it doesn't matter that it will work or not. I mean, from the perspective, because edge computing is still something what is huge hype. We don't know still how it will be realized, but at the end of the day, this is kind of cloud. And we have to understand how to deploy services quickly in the cloud. What we believe, and this is actually what we verified. We believe in evolution, not revolution. So we've seen such projects which were about to do revolution. After 2 years of working, nothing happened. But you can start doing stuff on your field without huge impact. So from my field, we are providing services mostly for mobile operators in the field of voice services, SMS services. Those guys, usually they're using some kind of middleware like JSLI, SIP servlets, or legacy platform. So I don't want to say, okay, guys, get rid of that. You should do this cool stuff. It's not possible because they invested money, so they should utilize as long as possible existing platforms. But meanwhile, do hybrid deployment, like to use legacy and think about cloud native deployment. And then in 21 or 22, move away from that and be purely cloud native. And how to do that? Actually, the problem with telco right now is okay, we are happy about that because we know this stuff, but the problem is that telco is using those protocols like SS7, SIP, diameter, SMPP, which are not fitting to cloud deployment type. In the cloud, you should go to REST light communication, and using Kubernetes containers, you are not able to attach a SIP session to Kubernetes directly. Maybe somebody can do that, but for me it's really hard. That's why we see that we should have something what is in front. And actually, we are coming back to the concept of service broker, and this is actually how we are deploying services. But you have this legacy protocol here, and then here either you have some legacy application or legacy platform, or new application which is implemented based on REST communication. And this is how you can migrate from legacy platform towards cloud native deployment based on profile, and you can support legacy protocols at the edge of your application. This is important to understand. You can easily scale it. Your core can load balance traffic between different instances, so you don't have this constraint like right now. So this is actually our service broker, which we are using in most of our deployments to create this concept. And right now the question is, okay, my customers are scared about going cloud native because they don't have platform, and this is actually the biggest mental problem. I don't have platform, so what is this application? Actually, we understand that, and we don't want to say, okay, I have few developers, they will implement some application, then we will deploy on the platform and on the cloud, and it works. No, we understand that we have to have alarm module, replication of data session replication. We have to have data cache. If we have few instances, they have to understand each other, what is the state of the session, and CDRs, logging, and so on and so on. On top of that, depend on type of service. If we are using SIP diameter SS7, we tested the solution using akka. Akka is a reactive toolkit to implement actor model. this is the same model which was used in Erlang. But as I mentioned, with Erlang is the problem that you don't have too many Erlang developers. They are all in Sweden. But in Java, if you learn your team how to implement real-time services using akka, you are able to do that quickly. For REST applications, we are not actually. Akka is not needed there. We can rely on Spring Boot or any other type of framework which allows build quickly REST applications. This is, for instance, something what we implemented in our customer. And but the same, you need alarm, statistics, replication, and other services which are around. Sorry, it's really small, but you can check it later on. And what are results? Because this is something what I can show many times, but the important is how it actually works. And my presentation was about lessons learned. And this slide I created 1 year ago. I use it without changing, so that so our OCS, which I mentioned, was deployed in September 2018. Right now, we finalize implementation of messaging gateway to replace the existing legacy solution. And this is the cloud deployment in Saudi. Working on 2 data centers, handling traffic in average 1000 TPS with some peaks to 2000 if we have like marketing campaign or something like that. So we are able to consume such traffic, and it was promised that the latency will be about 20 milliseconds. But what happened? I checked it before coming here. This is the real graph from Elastic Kibana. So we have average latency at OCS, handling diameter 3 and 4 and 5 milliseconds in average. So you can imagine that without this heavy stack like middleware and so on, you are able to achieve such results. This is incredible. Honestly, I was shocked. But this is how it works at the production, and it shows that you are able to achieve those demands to have edge computing at the edge of your cloud. But the important is how you tackle the way how you implement your service. So here is about OCS. So it's implemented, as I mentioned, based on akka. We are using, let's say, this microservices type of implementation. It's Dockerized. Right now, we are moving to Kubernetes to achieve bigger scalability. As I mentioned, the diameter stack, because it's a session protocol is at the edge of Kubernetes, and then we are converting it to REST. Internally, we are using REST-like communication. So this is this. Let me show off GA for our messaging gateway, which is implemented the same way. So this is modular architecture where we have integration with OCS. We have message store for store and forward, and we are using Cassandra. It's quite good technology. We have message bus, which is based on Kafka. This is another good example of using open source technology. And we are using akka as well here for managing communication with SMPP, which is legacy, so it's outside of Kubernetes cluster. HTTP can be directly sent to Kubernetes, and right now we have implementation of SMS gateways, so we are able to handle A2P traffic for SMPP HTTP traffic. And here is what is our blueprint. Sebastian, you are aware about blueprints, but this is actually something what, in my opinion, is important to draw. And our architects, they don't have to think how to do that. They are using existing blueprint. And so our vision is, not vision actually, what we are doing is like, you can deploy at any stack. So we have experience with OpenStack. We can deploy such cloud, by the way. But we can deploy a public cloud like Amazon, Azure, VMware, bare metal. And if you have such diversity, you need to automate deployment. So we are depend on customer, because this is another problem, that some customers would like to use Terraform Ansible, which is quite good combination. But on the other hand, more, let's say, telco customers, they are focused on OpenStack, Chef, Heat, and so on. In the middle, we have Kubernetes, because we believe that Kubernetes and Dockerized application is extremely good from the cost perspective, because you can fine-tune your deployment. You don't have to allocate virtual machine. You can allocate many instances at one virtual machine, and this is something what we see that is important. So the overall cost of your solution is lower. And then you can start build your PaaS, platform as a service. So as I mentioned, you need to cut off somehow legacy protocols. Then you can implement your service layer using either Spring Boot or Akka or any other type of technology. We are not strict in here. It's rather related to the way what service is doing. Then we need some data layer, either cache or session using Hazelcast or Aerospike or any other fast in-memory or efficient database. Then you need to keep subscribers using some relational database, Postgres, MySQL, or whatever. You can store your objects in Ceph or Swift, and at the end of the day, you need overall OEM layer like Logstash, Elasticsearch, Kibana, Prometheus, and so on. So this is something what is important, that you need this. You have to build it for each service. And lessons learned. Yes, you can do it. My opinion, it works for real-time services. Not in my opinion, actually, this is true. So you shouldn't be scared about. Is platform still needed? In my opinion, no. You should think about building services which are able to be deployed on the edge of the cloud. And one important lessons learned is automatization is extremely, maybe not extremely, actually is expensive, because you have to do this whole scripting. Guys, this is crazy. It's like it's a lot of work, honestly speaking, but it pays off once you'd like to do extension, do test platform, pre-production platform on another site, and so on and so on. This is important. At the first time, it's expensive. Later on, you can use it. And you have to be ready for a quick deployment and scalability. Okay, thank you.
Excellent, thank you so much. And it's the service broker just will not die.
Yes.
Keeps coming back again and again.
Yes.
It reminded me of some of the discussions I had with Leapstone back, wow, 15 years ago now. It's good to see. Because of time, you'll be around for the rest of the day?
Yes.
Greg? Excellent. So you can do Q&A after that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have Abhijit from Telesign discussing a very relevant topic around security, authentication, of which, of course, as we learned yesterday, has been your focus for many years now.
Yeah.
But I think some of the tools and capabilities that Telesign has are very relevant to a lot of the providers here in being able to add in their service into deployments with customers. So there you go. Perfect. So that was all nice and easy. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Alan. Okay, so before I even begin, I would like to appreciate Tebut here because after a round of pizza, beers, food 2.0, and 1.5 bottles of wine, you came back more energetic than yesterday. So thank you. And I'm with Telesign. I recently joined Telesign around 2 months back, and my background is into fraud and security. I've been doing this all my professional life. While I might be professionally less experienced than you in the CPaaS space, there are many things which I can bring from the other side of the world into the CPaaS world, because we see some synergies, we see some threats, crossing the channel and coming to the CPaaS space, and also the online business space. And this is what I'm here to talk about, right? Just a repeat of the question from yesterday. How many of you know Telesign? More than yesterday, so I was able to do some work. Okay, great. So I don't have a slide about me, but I think I've already introduced myself 2 times, so that's enough. If you'd like to know more, I'm here for the whole day. Let's get to the point. Let's talk about Telesign, right? So Telesign is present in 21 of the largest 25 web properties. They have, we have them as our customers for various different services. You guys might be very interested to know that Telesign is the founder, or let's say inventor, of 2-factor authentication based on SMS and voice. Yeah. So something which has become kind of de facto in terms of authorization and verification of accounts in the industry was actually invented by Telesign many years back. We started the company with that. In 2010, the company decided to get into the area of authentication, which is, let's say, verifying phone numbers through data attributes. Things like KYC checks and let's say, to verify if a particular online business, if he had a registration and an account update, if associated to a particular phone number, that information is aligned to the information which operator has for the same phone number or not, right? Very, very important information. Yeah. In 2016, which is quite recent, we also forayed into the area of communications. We are also one of the leading CPaaS players. And 2017, it's very much tied to me. 2017 is when BICS, which is one of the world's largest international communications enabler, acquired Telesign, right? The aspiration was to get into the area of digital businesses or digital service providers, and Telesign was considered as one of the main sources or one of the main platforms for us to take into that direction. Now, so what did it do for us? So as Telesign and Bix acquisition of Telesign, Bix being one of the world's largest international communication players, and when I say international communications, I'm talking about more than 50% of international roaming traffic passing through Bix network around the world. You're talking about, Bix being one of the largest international wholesale carriers, one of the largest SMS hubs in the world. We have a very strong roaming business. We have also, they also have a very strong cloud communication business and numbering business. So that actually, helped the connection which they have with the telecommunication industry, helped Telesign to increase the quality of the services, because with Bix, they were able to obtain direct connections to more than 700 different operators around the world. Yeah, when I say operators, I'm talking about the fixed line and mobile network operators, right? Something which is very, very important in the industry, because that ensures quality. Second is, again, with the connections of Bix, the coverage became quite huge, because then we were able to target 97% of the world population, because Bix was able to provide that coverage to 230 plus countries. Yeah, it also helped Telesign with better intelligence. You would be surprised to know that the numbers which are fraudulent in the traditional telecom industry, they do show some fraudulent activity in the online businesses. There is a direct correlation, right? So if a fraud is happening in this side of the world, you will see that number appearing somehow or somewhere in some of the online businesses. So that actually gives us a very good intelligence of what's happening on the other side of the world, so that we can enhance our intelligence according to that. Yeah, and also continuous improvement. We also get access to international communication data, whether it's CDRs or signaling data or messaging data, and that also helps us keep improving our machine learning algorithms to identify new fraudulent attacks which are happening around the world. So talking about our solutions, I'll not spend a lot of time here, but we have 3 verticals of offerings which we provide to our customers. One is the first one, which is verification, the 2 FAs, which can be over SMS, let's say voice, or directly into the app. Yeah. And then there is the part of communication, which is, enabling, or let's say being a CPaaS player in the area of voice and messaging. Under this, we also provide numbers. So that's another part of the business. But today, I'm going to talk or focus more on the mobile identity space, which is about what a number can actually say about a particular person, right? Or particular entity which is behind that particular phone number, and how do we deliver that? So, so if you look at how Telesign can add value to online businesses, I'm not going to go through each one of them. It's just a view for you to have as to, so if you look at a customer life cycle across any online business, the top cycle kind of matches, right? You start from lead generation, there are registrations involved, there can be logins. If there are some kind of transactions which are involved, then that's there. And then the user can actually manage account, or there's an engagement where you can also contact user, or user can contact you for any reasons like publicity or customer support or anything of that sort. So there are these challenges which are across any of these, let's say, customer lifecycle steps, which Telesign is able to help with. So today I'm going to talk about 3 of these challenges, right? And how Telesign can help address them for their customers. So one is fake accounts. Yeah. or anything fake online. Let me put it that way. Yeah. And second is account takeover. Yeah. And third is something called as IRSF. There will be a small question when I reach IRSF, so be prepared for that. Okay, so the problem of fake accounts itself is huge when you go online. I'm sure that you know that fake accounts are a problem, right? I mean, you would have heard on the news about the fake account problems on Facebook and other social media, which actually were able to influence US election results. Yeah, and the same approach is being taken with respect to elections or political topics around the world, where I mean, fake news, generated by fake accounts is actually being spread across the world. So, but let me talk about some numbers. I mean, I think the volumes are higher, but some of the industry numbers say that around 20% plus of the online accounts are fake. Yeah, it depends upon which business you look at. So if you talk about social media, it's the percentage is much higher. If you talk about let's say an online e-commerce, it can be at the same level. If you talk about let's say news website, it can be higher. Or if you just talk about any other website, it can be low, right? So the point here is that average is 20% plus, but depends upon which market or which segment we are talking about in terms of online business. 40% plus of online reviews are fake. Yeah, if you believe reviews even on Amazon to be good, no, that's not the case. I mean, you will find so many similar looking products having similar review counts with similar kind of videos being recorded in there. Yeah, even if you believe videos or customer anecdotes, and most of them are fake. Yeah, so around 40% of online reviews which you see are fake. So when you buy something, please check it thoroughly before buying. Just don't go by stars and the reviews which are put there. Yeah, Facebook alone, yeah, in just last 1.5 years have closed down 6.2 billion fake accounts. Yeah, that's like, I mean, around 2.5 times of the legitimate user accounts which they have. The problem is more or less on Twitter, more or less on some other social media accounts. So, but the point here is that this shows you the scale of fake accounts, which is the social media faces. This is very interesting, and this is the other. This point is something which I touched yesterday. Around, if you compare the legitimate business,
Yeah. Like, is that true? Like six?
Yeah.
Is my question, because like, close down the service.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the reason that there's like 4 times more fake accounts than real accounts in a service? I mean, how many users are Facebook? One
No, 2.5 legitimate accounts there.
Okay, so then basically 3 times more or 2 times more. That is crazy. That's been removed. I know, it's like being removed, but that's the, I try to figure out in my head what that means to our reality. It's
Don't use Facebook.
yeah. I mean, all the other services, I guess, is the same, right?
And the point here is it's very interesting because Facebook, after whatever happened, they started publishing how many accounts they're closing down. So if you what I did is just quarterly numbers which they publish, I just summed up. Yeah, so in 1.5 years you see 6.2 billion accounts being closed, and these are the same guys are trying again and again ways of creating accounts, and Facebook tries to close them down. And Twitter is very infected with this. You talk about trolls. I mean, around 80% of the trolls are fake. They just are there to increase the count and the, let's say, interaction which happens against a tweet. Yeah. But what is very serious is this number, yeah, where I mean all the online businesses, all the businesses, let me put it this way, they have some or the other kind of social presence, right, or social media presence. They also solve problems. Their customer service also interacts with users using online pages or online accounts. You won't believe that when you compare with real versus fake business accounts, it it is more than 2.5, 2.4 times. Yeah. So if a user is contacted by, but Lufthansa website on let's say Twitter, saying that we see some suspicious activity on your account, can you give us whatever details you want? A normal user will just go ahead and give it. Yeah. He will not check for verified or not verified. Of course, the online social media accounts try and educate customers or users about it, but okay, it's just, the old people, the young guys, they become kind of the focus of the attacks, right? So that's a big problem. And people like us, normal users, they also provide false data when they register themselves to an online service. Around 50% of users do that. Maybe a wrong date of birth, wrong name, email address which doesn't exist, wrong contact number or whatever, right? So that's also a big problem, because you cannot verify a user properly if they are actually giving you false information. It's not only for Facebook or social media. It's also about some services which are there, which are online, which can also be government services or something else. If you give false data, then you don't get those benefits, or you try and do something dodgy, right? Some of the techniques which these guys use are using sophisticated bots. Yeah, SIM farming. When I say SIM farming, that means, and I come from the telco world, so I know what SIM farming is and how big that can be, because we have dealt with, or we are still dealing with SIM boxes, size of tens of thousands of SIMs working in a data center with, let's say, plug and play equipments, and you can control all of them using software. SIM farming is another way of doing that. It has been it's one of the means where fake accounts are managed and grown. Why you do SIM farming is that if an online account is actually doing SMS verification, then you have a phone number where the SMS can be received, right? Using burner or VoIP numbers is another way you can create, let's say, billions of fake accounts. And why it is done, I already talked about spamming, phishing, spreading fake news, post fake reviews, impersonation of a person, right? Creating logins on, this is very important. So if you create a login on Facebook, there are a lot of other online businesses which say, okay, log in using your Facebook account. Then it becomes very, very easy. You don't have to enter things again, right? Increased number of followers, non-competitive behavior. So you won't believe Justin Bieber, 40% of his followers are fake. Yeah. So and even non-competitive behavior. You go to your let's say sales site of your competition. You can post fake reviews saying that, okay, and bring down the overall let's say rating. So just a quick let's say view of when I say commercialized bot, what does it mean? If you go online and search for affiliate marketing, you'll get thousands and thousands of softwares who actually try and entice users or make you affiliate by just a click of a button. Yeah, and what you have to do is that they post targets. Yeah, it can be creating an account on a website or posting a review to a product or something of that sort. And then when you finish that, and if it converts, then you get something as a user, right? And then the software provider, because they control the infrastructure, they get some money from, let's say in case of online commerce, they get part of the revenue which they earn, right? It's such a interesting topic to create a pyramid scheme on, right? Where you, as a person who can entice or influence people around you, can actually say, you know what, you do this for me, and you will get a cut out of it. And then they can become an agent and go and sell it to somebody else. I had to take out my aunt from one of such schemes where she used to just sit in the morning. She's a housewife, to sit in the morning and just click on the ads or post reviews or something of that sort, right? And I said, don't do that. And I had to explain. It took a while to explain her how it works, but okay. At the end, she was able to close this activity. But it's quite widespread, because then it actually brings legitimacy of the online reviews and all posted by users, because the IP addresses are different and all. So online businesses are trying to track that. They have, they can escape that. And then you're talking about SIM farms and burner phones, yeah, which are very, very readily available. Now let's go to the second problem, which is data breaches. Now there is a website which is called as Breach Level Index. Just go and visit that website. That talks about how many breaches, how many records have been breached right now, yeah, since 2013. Since 2013, around 14 billion plus records of let's say individuals have been breached in various attacks. Yeah, and so that means more than twice of the world population or information related to that have been breached, right? And again, here is my story. I mean, these are just numbers. I mean, I used to feel very okay. I mean, it's happening. It's a reality. But when it hits you, you realize how serious this can be. And I remember being part of one research project where we were thinking of, let's say, reselling, not reselling, but let's say gathering all the intelligence about what records have been breached so that we can provide it to online businesses if the account there has been breached, so that they can inform the users, right? But there, in one of the latest breaches, I found my login credentials to be present in plain text. So they would have just got it from some website. But what was very interesting to see was that, that password which I was using, even being a fraud and security professional, I was using it across websites. Yeah. And the point was that, what did I do about it? Nothing. I said, okay, I'll change it, you know. And then within 2 days, my Uber account gets hacked. There are 15, 17 rides which are taken in Russia. Yeah, it was a problem getting my account activated again, or in the last state again. Yeah, and then my Google gets hacked. My I think Twitter got hacked or something like that. So the point is that it was a hell coming out of that particular attack. And if I am facing that problem, you can imagine how a normal person will actually deal with these, right? He will come out of social media for sure. Yeah. So what did online businesses do about it? They resorted to actually target data breaches. They resorted to approaches like 2FA, which actually worked out pretty well. Google has published numbers, and other businesses have published numbers. They say that 99% of bot-based, let's say, account takeover attacks can be prevented by 2FA, which is very effective, right? But now you see fraudsters evolving and trying to find other ways to deal, let's say, to actually hijack accounts. But these are more let's say individualized approaches, where they focus on a target and try to take over his or her accounts. It includes SIM swap. Yeah, so SIM swap essentially means that you have your phone number, you have your SIM. Yeah, and then I, being a fraudster, I find a way, maybe through paying or let's say involving an employee of telco, or maybe calling the customer care, giving them some personal information of me, or trying to just let's say entice them to give me that information, not information, but actually make them do something to actually make them change my SIM to the SIM which I'm having right now. So I'll purchase a SIM and ask them to port the number, not port, but shift the number, phone number from that SIM to this SIM. I can say that my SIM is lost and here is my information, right? And if you try 10, 15, 30 times with different customer care agents, you might actually find one who is ready to help. Yeah. So so it has become very, very popular. Not very popular, still rare, but you will see that some of the accounts have actually, or some of the SIM swap attacks have actually come in the news, where people are trying to, where they got hijacked of millions of dollars worth of, let's say, Bitcoin accounts and other bank accounts, and they are suing AT&T and other operators about it, right? But then you have porting. Porting is is becoming more and more easy. In UK itself, they are talking about a one-day porting or one SMS-based porting, and that also, the purpose is the same. You have another SIM and you transfer a number to that SIM, which the fraudster is currently having. You're talking about call forwarding. That's like temporarily forward the voice call which is coming, or it can be authentication message or 2FA message which is coming to a number, forward it to another phone number, right? And then phone number recycling. Phone number recycling is you deactivated your account, yeah, but you did not change it to in the online accounts, right? So your online account is still associated to the old phone number. It can have a problem where the messages or account let's say promotions and all are still going to the new number, but it also has a problem of recycling number hunting, where the fraudsters actually go in the market to get hold of recycle numbers so that they can get hold of some online accounts, right? Then I'll quickly go through IRSF. It's the biggest fraud in terms of revenue loss, or let's say, revenue loss which is existing in telecom industry. Can anybody tell me the full form of it? Anybody? I mean, we are losing $10 billion against this every year. Yeah.
It's supposed to be your rate services.
Yeah, it's one side of it. It's called as international revenue share fraud. Yeah. So how many of you have got missed calls from some weird looking numbers around the world? Oh, that's more than the people who knew Telesign. So, so the point here is that why is somebody from, let's say, weird number is actually giving you missed calls? Because they're enticing you to call back. What are those numbers? If you try and call those numbers, you will be charged a heavy fee. Yeah. These can be premium numbers. These can be other high price numbers. So it can be just some numbers which are hijacked by some party in the call chain. Yeah. So the idea here is just to, let's say, on the source side and on the destination side, do something so that the numbers which are present on the destination side are attached to the fraudster, and that person earns through the traffic which is terminated onto those numbers. Yeah. So so that's what IRSF is, and there are many methods and tricks which are available to fraudsters to do this particular fraud, and that's the reason why because so and let me so we were talking about programmable telecom vertical, right? I'll call this vertical as, let's say, modern communication providers, right? It can be you guys, or it can be, let's say, Googles and Facebooks of the world, or let's say Skypes of the world, and the other VoIP service providers. If you see how big is this issue in the overall modern communication, let's say, players. When I was in BIX, we did some study and we found out that 30% of the overall fraud traffic which we were receiving to these fraudulent numbers were coming from these online service providers, or let's say modern communication providers, including CPaaS, UCaaS, and other players, right? And the point was that it actually resonated with us because this industry has seen tremendous growth over a few years. And just between 2017 to 2018, this particular fraud in the modern communication platform grew by 60%. Yeah. So fraudsters started targeting the traditional telecommunication player less, but the modern communication players more, because that actually provides them ease of entry. Yeah. Because if I go to any CPaaS, let's say, player, I can create account, I can push some money in that, and I can start generating traffic to those numbers. If the payment source is fraudulent, it makes my life easy, right? If you give me an opening credit, I can generate millions of missed calls even without, let's say, generating, or let's say, cutting even a single cent. Yeah. So the point here is that this is actually giving them an easy way to generate massive amount of traffic to the numbers they want, either by doing missed calls or generating the traffic directly to those numbers. So as I said, there are many ways the traffic can be generated at source. Yeah. or and many ways it can be collected at the destination. Yeah. So I'll just walk you through the sample IRSF flow. So let's say these are modern communication providers, right? And what you will find is that if a fraudster can be connected to these modern communication providers directly, or it can be connected to a customer of these modern communication providers. So it actually brings in one more level of complexity where the fraudster is not connected to you directly, but actually a business which is connected to you, right? And they can do subscription fraud. They can do, let's say, they can use compromised payment methods. They can have a non-payment intent, money laundering, terrorism financing. There can be many other sources by which he can generate that traffic, which can fuel that traffic. And the point here is that not only that, but let's say even the modern communication providers we have seen get hacked, their SBCs get hacked, and you start seeing traffic going to the numbers which are associated to a fraudster. And these numbers are normal looking numbers. Yeah, most of the time, so I'll say around 30-40% of the time, they might be tagged to a designated premium number range in a particular country, but most of the time they are not. Yeah, in a lot of cases, the calls actually go to closed ranges or unallocated number ranges in a country, which nobody is expecting traffic to, and somebody in the call chain just hijacks those calls, and you are billed for that. Yeah, but if these numbers actually exist, the numbers actually terminate. These may be IVRs, they may be, let's say, fake conferencing facility, and they pick up and they generate traffic to that, and let's say a fraud is complete. Yeah. Okay, so I'm kind of at the end of my presentation. A few slides to go. Now, the point here is that if I'm talking about a user identity, right? Until a few years back, and still a lot of websites do that, they consider user identity as an email address, a username, let's say a handle, but that's not who I am, right? And I'm Avijit Singh. I'm around 30-year-old. Yeah, I can be contacted at this number. I own a Huawei phone. I hail from India. I live in Brussels. I'm a heavy user of all social media accounts. I am a big online shopper. So this is who I am, right? I'm not an email address or a password. And the point here is that if you're trying to protect a particular user against attacks, I mean, you should actually use personal information to actually protect that person, not online username and password, right? So, and that's what we try to do. But in order to do that, you need to find a way, a hook by which you can collate all the information to a single entity, yeah, and that entity is phone number for us, yeah, because phone number is kind of a universally acceptable and let's say available entity, which can be associated to an individual, business, things, or anything, right? And we all know phone numbers, and that's what we try to do at Telesign. We are at Telesign, phone number is let's say the center of the universe for us, right? So that's what we try and do at Telesign, where we try and gather intelligence about a phone number activity in both the online world and the communication world. Yeah, we used to do it only for the online world a few years back, but Bix actually has enabled us to actually, look at the transactional information, or let's say the information for which the phone number is supposed to be used, the calls and messages, and enrich our intelligence with that. Yeah. So we on the phone number side, we provide two different kind of services. One is on the ad hoc phone attribute service, which we call as phone ID. Yeah, and other is score, a risk score against a particular phone number. Yeah. So when you talk about phone ID, it can be as easy as saying that, okay, a user is trying to register himself. I see that phone number associated to another account at this point of time. what was this phone number ported recently, or was this phone number, let's say, SIM swapped recently? And we provide that information back to online business saying that, yes, it was ported, let's say, a while back, so that they can then, let's say, limit the exposure. They can then take a secondary verification step, or even decline that transaction or registration activity which the user is trying to do. On top, we provide phone number scoring. So that means if you want to identify if a particular phone number which is coming to your online business and trying to register an account, how risky that phone number is, so that if it comes out to be very, very risky, you just decline that phone number registration itself. You just tell user to use another phone number, right? But and its use cases can be many other. Wherever there is a phone number touch point, you can actually query the phone number risk score, which is powered by the machine learning working on the data set, which I just talked about. Right from phone number being identified as VoIP or burner phones, or let's say newly activated accounts, to the from the information of, let's say, crowdsourced information from other online businesses. If they have faced fraud against a phone number, they report it back and we know about it. And then if we see fraud attacks happening in the telecom world, which is more than 55 million plus phone numbers, we also have it as part of our algorithms built in. Now, apart from that, our machine learning also keeps identifying new patterns and activities which these guys are doing, like velocity and how many online businesses have just activated that account at any given point of time, right? So if it shows a very high velocity, then it's a very high chance that that particular person is trying to do fraud. So that's one thing. Now, okay, this is what I already talked about, so I'll not go through that. But what is very interesting to see is that we actually as part of the data set which I was talking about, we are talking about trillions and trillions of data points being present there, which are used to identify a score or risk score against a particular phone number. And as you can see, I was talking about machine learning algorithms. Just a view of how helpful can that be. So these are two sets of phone numbers and their activities, and you can clearly see that robocalls show a very different calling patterns than an application, let's say, or A2P traffic being generated by systems, right? Same with human versus machine traffic. So humans provide that kind of, or a number associated with human provide that kind of traffic profile. But when you see A2P use cases, or let's say OTP use cases, you see a phone number giving this kind of a profile. And when it comes to robocalling, you see this kind of a profile, right? And also the things like, if you look at connections of a particular phone number, that can be really important to identify if this is a particular legitimate user or not, because it shows strength of connections. It shows how many diverse connections he has, or what is the directions they get incoming calls, they get outgoing calls, and things like that. So it also helps us differentiate from many other, let's say, illegitimate accounts. Just a visualization. I'm not going to go into detail, but the idea here is just to show you that for an user registration use case, what checks can TeleSign help online businesses do to ensure that a user which is registering is legitimate or not. And all the purple color bubbles are the TeleSign touch points at a user registration process. Something which user is not even aware of, but you can still verify a number which is associated to an online user, seamlessly enter the let's say online business without even them knowing that you actually perform these many checks. And on top of that, let's say IRSF. If, let's say, you have a problem of IRSF, you can actually, any number, let's say B number or A number, which is hitting your network in terms of a call request, you can ping it to a score and see if that particular number is fraudulent or not. So those were some of the use cases. As to how we actually solve that problem, it can be in terms of IRSF, it can be very, very easy. Here also it can be very easy if the risk, if risk score is the only thing you try and match. But if there are other use cases, you can also check it through TeleSign. And the last slide, the point here is that, I mean, apart from the use cases which I talked about, there are certain other examples how we have actually helped other online businesses across user lifecycle to solve the problem or solve various different challenges which they have faced across various different steps of the user lifecycle or the user touch points where the phone number is present. Yeah. So I'm here the whole day, and in case you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer now or during the day. Yeah.
Great. So what I suggest is take questions basically while you're here through the day. I mean, most of the major web providers are customers of TeleSign. I think what they've got is a great package of services that can be repurposed virtually every enterprise that's out there. So all the customers and the people in this room, I think, should be looking at how they can take the lead that TeleSign's got and help their customers in managing fraud, but also the efficiency with which they're handling calls, especially if it's $5 to $10 per call handset. So again, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Coffee is upstairs, biscuits are upstairs, and let's be back here by around 11. Okay? Yeah, thank you. That was excellent. Hey. Game's looking at sense, so yeah. Well, I did this little interview and then it was back upstairs, but then I had to get a couple of things wrapped up and then. The internet was so damn slow to get everything big. It was just trying to upload. Where are you? I'm just close by, it's about 10 minutes. So, but yeah, it was slow. But I'm getting all uploaded now.
Yep, I can hear you. I don't see you at the moment, I just hear you. Oh, now why is it not coming through there? Ah. Yep. I'm just sorting out the audio because the audio is not coming through on the TV. It should be okay. Or let me just preferences. Get that sorted, and then we'll get the rest of it sorted. Same HDMI. Try plugging, re-plugging in. Oh, well, not to worry. I'm just struggling with why it won't cut the audio. I mean, it's selected as the output device. The audio is coming through. Let's see. It's always the way. It's like, it couldn't be easier. It's just like audio should just. I mean, it's worked on all the other presentations. I was trying to work out. I've got so many other processes running it on that. Not reset it. Let me try one thing. So I'm just going to hop off. So you shouldn't be logged out. So let me just jump out to this conference call and then jump back in. Okay. Using computer audio. So you say something, Gavin? Oh yeah, don't worry. I just it starts automatically with the video off. Okay, we're good. Your audio is going through and speaking now. Mostly we get a bit of audio feedback. So what I'll do is mute. Yeah, I mean we were just chatting now, but get out of the way so you can see. So the room is there. So it's a few hardy souls that are carrying on working while everybody else is getting coffee. We just sort out the live stream so people can see on the live. Oh, okay. It's a bit more saturated. Let me just see if it looks better. I know this is going to be a bit of the way. I'm just trying to get the live stream. Yeah, I'm not going to get the audio close enough. Let's try. We have the technology. It's just a matter of configuration. So how's the weather up in Edinburgh at the moment?
Oh, we're a bit further, it's up in Aberdeen.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
We're up in Aberdeen, so it's a bit further up. It's not too bad. It was -3 yesterday, I think, -2.
Okay.
Can't complain.
Yeah, that's not so bad.
Is this day 1 or day 2?
This is day 2. This is day 2, yeah. We had already quite a
How was
number.
yesterday?
Oh, it was great. I mean, it was packed. We ended up with a big party at the end. So, you know, it was quite funny with, yeah, I'm just going to do it on, just have this pointing at you on the laptop, because we can actually see you that way. Perfect. Good. So the audience can see you. You can see the audience. The live stream can see you. You need to be able to, actually, I should need to move that coming through the speaker. So that should be fine anyway. Perfect. Good. Again, thanks so much for being prepared to do this. This is great. You know, and we have the technology.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. It's just the only way I seem to be able to change these stuff nowadays this week.
Don't worry. I'm the same way. I try to minimize travel. Yeah, you have far more valid reasons than I. But it's just because it sucks up so much time. You know?
Yeah.
And anyway, so I'm just going to grab a coffee, okay? And yeah, it's the day started off not too bad. You know, I mean, I was expecting like sort of a handful. We had far more than a handful because we had like a party and people had done out. But you know, numbers are picking up now, so we should get to you know, I think for this you know, sort of second session in the afternoon morning, so we should be at around sort of 30 to 40 people, and then afternoon will almost be the same. You'll have a good audience, and then on the live stream. Yesterday we had over 106 views on the live stream, and then what I'm going to do is, I should do this now. Press the record button. If I don't.
It's what? This is a 15 minutes, is it?
No, we've got. Check. Nope, you've got half an hour, but we're not going to start on time at 11. It'll be 5 past, 10 past. You know, we can be flexible. So if you want to keep it to like 15, 20 minutes, that's fine. We've got, you know, half an hour slotted in, or I do that partially because
Well, technology, you can speak for hours.
I know, yeah. And some people do. Some people like to talk and talk. While other people like to just say, look, this is all I want to say, and that's it.
Yeah.
So we're flexible. Okay? But as long as you can be done by 11:30, that helps me out. Okay?
Right.
Cool. Great. So we're all sorted on that, and then go to Lewis after that, and then Karen. Perfect. Excellent. So let me go get some coffee, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay? Hey Gavin, how's it going?
Last for you.
Perfect. Make sure the audio level looks good. Okay, so I'm just corralling them back into the room. You know how it is. I have chocolate biscuits up there, so you know, coffee, chocolate biscuits, listening to a presentation. It's hard to make that decision.
Next time you join me, it's much better than what you had. That was fantastic. The host just complained about it. The guest last complaining about the guest. This is the role is different. It's the guest complaining. Not you stopped it. I was actually saying how very I think it's not there. It was by the number. I'm not sure if I can complain about that. Okay. You have moved some sofas, it seems that you are fine. I think that we should start.
Okay, so we're going to get going. Ask people a couple of times downstairs. So I'm just going to talk a little bit. So hopefully the people that are talking at the door, close the door. They know that this is right now. So it's my pleasure to introduce Gavin Henry, all the way from Aberdeen. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us in person. However, thanks to the remarkable technologies we work on, he is here virtually. So, Gavin, over to you.
Hi everyone. Just share my screen.
That's it.
See,
Yep, you can see it.
right. So, my son there, you can see in the wheelchair, safe bed. That's primarily the reason I can't really go many places. He's disabled and has been sort of driving force for all this type of stuff we've been doing. So a bit about who I am. I'm Kevin Henry, the rifle, age 41 now. That's my wife and son, Ben, like I said. Started off as an IT consultant in 2005. So I got introduced to Linux and open source software at uni and just loved everything about it. Just knew that's what I wanted to do. So joined the OpenLDAP project as a documentation person for them. Did a lot of consultancy around OpenLDAP and LDAP, which I still do. That brings us on to sort of where we are today with SureWhite, creating an ITSP. I also recently, this is coming up to the end of my first year as a podcast host for Software Engineering Radio. So just done 4 shows on mainly APIs. That's a lot of things that came towards that I'm going to talk about. If you don't listen to Software Engineering Radio already, it's amazing. There's 7 hosts, including myself. It's done by the IEEE magazine, by IEEE organization. And we basically get to speak to anyone that we want. It's amazing. You just, pick your topic and off you go. Right, so that's a bit of where I've come from. Our core business is hosted VoIP. So we use, I'm just going to get this page bigger so you can see. We use open source for everything. Our speciality really is the glue that sticks all together. So our multi-tenant hosted stuff is open source, and Trunks is powered by research and open steps. We do some support for bigger companies on site that do their own PBX and Asterisk things. We provide internet connectivity for that as well. So that's a bit about all the infrastructure that we have. I mentioned Ben is the driving force for most of this, my son. Basically, his sleep is terrible, so we've invested so much in the network that if anything dies on it, it doesn't really matter. We're based in Edinburgh and Telecom East, so at least 2 of everything in each site. We use AT designs, Juniper in the core, Cisco on the edge. We're pretty much on every peering exchange in the UK. Dual codes, just everything we can. We just won a big contract for like Irish hotels and the hotels to provide internet VoIP for them. So that's, I think, in 2 weeks we're replacing all of our routers in London with the next level of Juniper routers, which means we can do 160,000 HD Netflix movies per second. So way, way, way more than we need for one call, but that gives us a good sort of proof plan. So yeah, we don't need all this stuff, but it just means that if it dies, someone will be there within 4 hours to fix it. We don't lose any more sleep than we normally get. So this is the sort of infrastructure behind everything. And this year, if we go back to the infrastructure, for me, that map there is kind of as far as I want to go. I maybe think about doing something in Europe and the States, but on the technical infrastructure side, we're pretty much as far up the food chain as we can go. Independent as possible, direct links into BT for Azure 7. So now my focus is on the software side, which is another thing I love. So we've been starting out our portals, our APIs, our continuous integration, our testing and everything. And part of that is getting our first mobile app into the stores. So I wrote this. It was really just not a prototype, but sort of a tracer design pattern where you create a piece of software with a minimal sort of feature in it just to get it all out there and see how it all works. So we've also become an MVNO, so we've got our own SIM cards, and that was launched sort of March this year. So So powering that is the beautiful open source project called CG8, carry. Amazing. I love the guys behind it. So we sponsored a bit that we needed in it, which was to speak to our mobile virtual enabler. So basically, when you put a SIM card in your phone, their API speaks to CG8. So when you click send on a text or make a receive a call or do a data session, it comes to us and we authorize it in real time. It's not quite damaged protocol if you're familiar with mobile, but it's pretty close. So having these SIM cards in your phone also means that you can have as many mobile numbers as you want. But with mobile, unlike a software app or a desktop phone, you don't really know which number's being called to ring your phone. So there's this gap of not knowing if they call your work number, your personal number. So it's a perfect opportunity to create an app to send basically the primary feature, which is a push notification. I thought, like, how hard can it be to hook up to Google Firebase cloud messaging and send a push notification? And it wasn't actually that hard. I did that in probably 2 working days from scratch. But then you've got the whole thing around it of getting it onto Google Play, getting it onto the App Store, and making sure it's tested every time you commit something to your Git repository. And this lives on a private repository on GitHub, and then goes into Cyrus CI to run the tests and everything. So that was all good. That's what you can see on the Apple App Store on Android there. You need to get a customer to use it. I just want to go into how we got into that. See that. So I've been around speaking to different people to get this developed for us natively, etc. And came across Flutter and immediately fell in love with not just the project but the tooling around it. If you haven't looked at Flutter, I really recommend it. You can just install it on any operating system, go into the folder called example and type Flutter run, and it will just do it for you and provision it on your Android or your iOS device. And off you go. It also allows you to create something on the desktop, much like Electron, but it's from the one code base for mobile as well. So if we go back to that screen of just that push notification you see on your device, take you through how that actually works. So Flutter's the framework that makes it happen on the desktop. When someone calls your second mobile number, for example, that request to authorize that call, will come to us, and at that point we know what number's been run and we've authorized it. So CG8 here has the events, a big part of events, an event-driven microservice. An event is saved to trigger a call on our API. So a call comes in, you've got a notification set up to care about that call. It then fires off an event to our API, which looks at your LDAP profile, which is what powers our portal. So you've got to set what this number to send you a push notification. We save that in your LDAP account under a specific schema that we've created. So when the number is called, comes into CG8, CG8 then fires an event into our API. We go look up your LDAP profile and say, do you care about receiving a notification or not? It says yes, and inside your profile is your Firebase cloud message ID. Basically, when you set up Google Firebase cloud messaging on a device or desktop, it's basically like a SIP registration. You're getting a unique ID back, and that's how you address your device anywhere in the world. So you use that, submit it with your message to the Google Firebase cloud messaging API, then you can send a bit of text or a data payload up to 426 bytes. So quite a big payload you can send, to provision something. And that's pretty much how that bit works. The real difficulty was just getting your head around Flutter, where you save that key. Once you've been set up, you need to know not to push the setup page. And the QR code is quite new. Everyone knows what a QR code is. But because we don't have all through in our API, we wanted a seamless way to just install the app and get started. So ideally, you can install the app and click sign up or log on. But we don't have that at the moment. So the way we've done it is you go into settings on your portal, QR code gets generated. Inside that QR code, we embed a JSON Web Token, which is signed by our portal. There's a bit of data in there with your unique ID. Basically log in, take a picture of the QR code, instantly Flutter, it's just got dark, powered by dark, usually takes that token with a little bit of validation and just sends it straight to our API. The API checks it's come from the portal, checks it has expired, checks a few other things, and then saves it onto your profile. And that's you. So explain like that, pretty straightforward. So you've got your working proof of concepts, which is push notification, and then you've got the bit pretty, bear in mind it's just the first release. And then you've got the app stores. Now Google Play is pretty straightforward. You just get the developers on the board, they can test it. But Apple just didn't understand the point of this app. Why are you sending push notification for a call? And you've got a call coming in anyway. So I had to explain that, gave them test accounts that I was supposed to, so I played it, set it all up. They still didn't get it. But by this time it was live on Google Play. What we had to actually do was take a video of the app with another phone, submit that video so they could check it was a legit app. And then they wanted the screenshots of every iPhone device. You can simulate all those. You can simulate a £1,200 iPhone device. You're not going to have every device thought just to do this. But the limitation with Google with Firebase Cloud Manager, you can't do it through the simulator on Apple. But there is a plugin by Flutter where you can do a local push notification. So what I had to do is quickly set up a timer to create a push notification, then take a screenshot on every device of a fake push notification, and then they were happy with that. So there's a little trick with Flutter there. There's a little notification you can generate to do that. And that was the first version out. It was such a thrill to actually have something on the App Store like created from scratch. It's fully tested. There's still a lot of work to do on that version, but it was really a bit more than a proof of concept, but just to get a head around the mobile development ecosystem. The plan of doing our own software ourselves. The moment we sell CPaaS Stretto, which allows you to download it off the App Store and basically buy a login from us, and then we use their provisioning server to set it all up for you. But it's, even if you pay to get a brand of this, it doesn't have all that other stuff in it, to get your invoices or provision number or anything, even if you can do that from the mobile version of the portal. So me with my techie hat on, I really want to do that, create that software. When you be a business hat back on, it's the best way to do this. But yeah, it will create another way for people to get on board with the company. They can download it, sign up, do video, instant messaging, chat, obviously calls. That's a great way for us to move forward over the next 12 to 24 months. So I've gone ahead with it. We're going to do short talk. So this is the logo we just talked about. It's a trademark, so you can see it's a T, like our N, with a sort of chat symbol in it, nice and simple, like that. So what is short talk? So it's building on short Notify, which was just to get our heads around how the mobile works. So Flutter has a WebRTC plugin project already. Played with that, it's really good. But because we're a SIP provider, we want to put SIP signaling across the data channel of WebRTC to make it easy for us. My favorite open source JavaScript project for SIP and WebRTC is JSSIP. So long as it's one out there, it's sort of buy-in. Love that project. So Dart is the underlying code for Flutter. It's really nice, and it's pretty, does a lot more than JavaScript. It's pretty close. So I approached the creator of the WebRTC Flutter project. So basically, long story short, we sponsored porting JSSIP to Dart. So you can see, if you just Google Dart space SIP space user agent UA, you get the project. So it's completely open source. There's now a full SIP stack in Flutter. You can clone that, go into the example folder, type Flutter run, and it will connect to the JSSIP test servers. You can do a video voice call immediately out of the box. There's a keypad on there. We've had a couple of contributors join already. The infamous Noji company that created the asterisk click to call browser plugin. He's jumped on and contributed a ton of code and has been testing it with asterisks. I think it's 17 at the moment. So already it's got a life of its own and getting tested where we work with it and touch it. So we're going to start scaling it up, testing it with our own stuff. We'll be speaking to Janus from WebRTC. This is another project which you don't know about, or into our own SIP servers that actually give us offers WebRTC there. So yeah, I'll give you a chance to talk about the wee journey of Short Notified, but I really want to get the short talk out there because there's a full-blown WebRTC software with video that you can download, do what you want with. Some core is open source. We'll obviously put our branding on a built version, provide it for sign up and everything. We've got to add quite a few bits along to our API, so it's nice and simple mobile. So yeah, JSSIP has been ported to Dart. It's open source. It'd be really cool if people could have a look at that and have a play. You can just download it, fly run on MacBook, so we sponsor the desktop version as well. You don't need to get into the whole electronic WebRTC area to try and build a video protocol app on your desktop. Just type fly run, and it works on Mac, Linux, and Windows. Which is a thin wrapper around Flutter, but it's nice. So all you need to do is contribute to the core, keep that going, and then put your skills around this, and then figure out how that still works in deployments. Push notification will provision this type of stuff. There's a configuration object in project, so you can just deliver that on the data payload of a Firebase push notification. And then we can have a really high quality software with video as well, which is usually a second bit for most people. A lot of the different bits of the project to do with both authentication, auth2, API security, all those types of things. I've done a couple of shows on software engineering podcasts now. You can have a look at that. And basically, I did one with Jason Richer, who was one of the, auth2 RFC guys. He's got some really good info on how you should be doing your API in the real world. And Neil Madden, I just spoke to you about securing the API, all about JSON Web Tokens, whether you should be using this type of stuff or not. So yeah, that's where we're at. So I should be starting this probably this month or next to get it going, but you can hop on, download, and have it running on your Android or iPhone within about 5 minutes. That's me. Any questions there?
Just unmuting you. That was excellent. Well done, Gavin. Super. Do you have any questions for Gavin? I've got a quick one based on your Apple experience, which is unfortunately very common. Have you done any updates to the app yet in the App Store?
Yeah, we've done one, and that went through fine.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes when you hit that roadblock, depending on whether it's the same team, you can sometimes hit that same roadblock several times going forward. So it's good to hear that the update didn't have the same issues.
I forgot to mention we're actually using Fastlane with Flutter. So that's a nice project that basically builds all your assets and screenshots, and once you tag the release in your code or you push it, it will just spin out everything, build it, and submit it to the app stores for you, so you can really iterate and get going without having to worry about all that stuff.
Cool.
Another project.
Yeah, okay, so just tell me and then we give the ball field, or you can come up and ask.
No, mainly is what's his experience with Flutter in large scale usage? This is fairly new. I'm playing around with it as well, but not in production. So just to get feedback if it's stable enough production, which is not users.
So did you hear that one, Gavin?
Not quite.
Yeah, so it basically, Jar's played with Flutter. He's interested to get your experiences in terms of how does it scale, how does it perform in production, given it's a relatively new project.
Yeah, so our project experience is, with our customer base, and I haven't really got any complaints about it. It's a 2D framework, so you're not using it for games or anything like that. Once it's compiled down to the sort of the Dart objects and native code, it's been fine for us. That's all I can really comment on. There's lots of stuff about if you Google Flutter performance, and it tries really hard to stick to 60 frames per second for any type of rendering. When you do sort of code optimization and the builds, you can really see the difference between the development version and you fire up the app. So part of doing the minimal version of that short-word notifying is just to sort of validate all of that. So we put up like what do you call it? A logo screen just as it flashes up, and that's quite slow development build, but the production build is instant. I've got a short-word notify running on an iPhone 4S on iOS 9. It's a bit laggy, but the push notifications work. That phone's 7 years old. The original iPad, it works. But it was just really impressive to build something in 2019 that you can go onto the App Store and download, and it works on each device. So, I had no issues with it. I'm actually speaking to the Flutter team on the next podcast show, and that'll be one thing I'll be showing into is the performance side there. I guess it's with any the same with any proprietary open source project or tool set. It's, what do you want out of it, and test it and make sure it fits the bill. For us, this version is fine. It fires up and does what it's supposed to do. When we start building the software and adding more stuff in, then we could do some sort of real testing and see, is it the API that's slowing things down? Is it the Dart networking stack? Even on short-word notify, we've got Sentry thing built in that'll pick up any exceptions, and we've got telemetry built in, so you can't roll all that off in real time sort of thing and send it to your log servers and Grafana and that type of stuff to use as well. Yeah, as far as our requirements, it fits the bill. It's a real joy to work with. You're not learning 3 different platforms, albeit there is Kotlin, Java, Kotlin code underneath, and there is Objective-C underneath for some of the plugins. So at some point we will need to get your hands dirty if that becomes a bottleneck. Yeah, but also it's been fine. You can only come back and revisit in a year's time to see. But if there are bottlenecks, you can get down and correct that. Okay, you can see every bit of the bar stack. So I'm not really that concerned about it at all.
Excellent, Gavin. That's great. Please, a round of applause for a great presentation. That was great. See you next time.
Hopefully I'll come down next time.
Absolutely. That'll be great. Thank you. Okay, there you go. The web world sets up so they can see while you present. Now, Lewis has been with us since the beginning. He made the trip all the way to Bangkok. And, yeah, well, you were presenting just on Apidays. Now, of course, Apidays is off with Sangoma at the back there. But one of the things that's sort of spun out from that work is Hotspot. We've been following the evolution of Hotspot for 4 years now, is it?
Yeah. I mean, it was in 2015.
Yeah.
We launched mid-2016.
That's right, yeah. So you gave the preview and then
So
it's been a very interesting story. So please, Lewis, educate us.
yeah, thank you, Alan. So good morning, everyone. As Alan mentioned, here is my preview event. So again, when we started with Apidays, I gave always the previews on all the research and development we were doing, starting in 2013, when we looked heavily into WebRTC. So Alan told the story. In 2015, in fact, we had the Web Summit. We went to the Web Summit as an exhibitor, and we were sitting around saying, okay, we cannot show the API because it's really too abstract for most of the people and the visitors. So we did like a little hack, and that's when Hotspot came. So basically, Hotspot was built on the Apidays API, now at Sangoma. And it was basically a way of creating a phone system on top of Slack Teams. Then we extended to G Suite. But okay, so here's our introduction. We still run it, but I always share my experience. It was super interesting. We were, I think, in the last years, we stayed 4 months as the Slack top app for communications. So it's a nice product, okay, but we are on a very large market with incumbent players and new players. So it's doing okay, but it didn't scale like immensely. And one of the things we noticed by having a Hotspot is that a lot of customers still have this feeling of lock-in, even when they go to, let's say, more modern solutions in the cloud. Okay, and we also noticed by having an API and competing with other APIs, that there are a lot of like barriers to adoption. In my opinion, I mean, it's a very simple reasoning, but let's say large APIs are really either for people like us who build apps or SaaS, or for large enterprises who are able to put like a lot of money and a lot of people, and that are going to spend a lot of time in building things internally. this is one thing. The other thing can be you can do very simple things like sending SMSs or doing double factor authentication, but these are very things. So, but for me, the promise, I'm on this market since 6-7 years, is that APIs is CPaaS is great, but when you look who is going to use them, you don't have that much people that are building like incredible things. Okay, so that's what we try to do. So we don't have happy days anymore. So now we are free to use whatever. And one of the things we noticed is that people suffer a lot from lock-in. Small customers, they have great plans, but they don't have money. The large customers have a lot of money, but they don't move fast, and a lot of projects get like stuck in the middle and so on. And also that large customers have legacy systems. So basically the small customer problem is I want everything because it seems simple and cheap. So I want this. So with Hotspot, for instance, we said, we need to plug some. Hotspot is great. We need telephony on Slack, but we still have some desk phones, and we need to plug them as well. But I need a special IVR with I don't know how many conditions, whatever. Could we do that? So in SaaS, it's completely impossible. So there is always some frustration. So we ended up saying, okay, the telephony system, let's leave complete freedom to our customers. So this is Alan, repeats for years. It's all about the services and not about the technology or the APIs. And this is the customer. Good luck. So you can, and I didn't even put like I was looking for your landscape. Like the landscape is large as a room. So we are all very clever, intelligent people. But I mean, the customer, when he sees all of this, he says, "I want everything, but I don't know where to start with." So we said, "What can we build next?" So we say, "Okay, businesses use voice platforms, most of them. So there are other ones. I put here some of them. Here, for instance, Kio. It's a cloud telephony system belonging to Bouygues Telecom. They might have some Twilio things, or we had like weird requests, like, hey, I want to plug my Twilio numbers to Hotspot because I want to say, okay, yeah, this is a specific app. Okay, you have to take a developer and do it by yourself. Oh, guys were really like disappointed. Or we have Wazo, Telesmax, or Nexmo. So business also have desk phones. It's something that still exists and a lot. It's probably the majority. Because when we live in the cloud world, we all think everybody is behind a computer, and there are no more desk phones, and we just come there and say, my solution is the best, and you will change everything. Okay, some of them have soft phones, and some of them even have WebRTC phones for the most evolved. They also use a lot of apps. So some of them, these are integrations we did with the regular, let's say, Hotspot. So Salesforce, Zendesk, Intercom, whatever. So everything is getting more and more multi-channel. So we try to come out with something simple as a user interface, where we have like a search box. So we plug all, I'll show you how, we plug all the business apps. Okay, the user knows his extension. He has some live activities if something is going on, and he has like all his stats. So just to, it's not really a demo, and I won't do demos. It's just like show how easy it is. So we inverted, instead of going through the phone system, we went through the business app. So this is real time, the way how you enter into Hotspot Connect. It's a very quick onboarding, 2 minutes and 12 seconds. So you choose, for instance, Salesforce. You said, I have like a sales team, and I want to plug it. I want to implement a CTI extension. So they just allow the access to Salesforce. And here they have like all their Salesforce users, and they enable some of them to Hotspot Connect. Then you plug your phone system. So here the idea is to extend and to have more and more phone systems, and the same for the integration. So here it's Q, it's a classic like cloud telephony solution. Okay, so basically here's only one phone number. So we enable the phone numbers which are on the phone system, and then we allocate the phone numbers, the extensions to the Salesforce users. So everything is like kind of done. Then you just have to download the extension. Okay, and then when you go to the profile, you have here everything. So we can create teams. I can say I have a sales team on Salesforce, but I could also say I have a support team on Zendesk. We actually didn't finish the Zendesk on the Connect thing, but we're in the process of doing it. So you don't change your habits, you don't change your phone system, and you just basically plug the users. Okay, here you have like all the integrations you can make. Let's move back. So it's zero code, which has good parts, which is there's no error possible, and we won't lose time on doing that. But it's still quite open. You can easily add or delete team users. So a team manager can really like manage all these integrations and access to the phone system, and you can restrict like some views for users. You can also create rules, like because having an integration, like ready-made integration, like if you have Ring Central, Salesforce, okay, but then you cannot move a lot of things around. You take it and you use it as it is. Here we can create our own rules and say, okay, whenever there is a missed call, whenever there is like an inbound call, whatever, what do I do in my integration? And the back office is really super easy to understand. You have a personal space where you can connect, like for instance, your own email. I'll show you afterwards why. So for the moment, it's Gmail. I can also set rules for my emails. Okay, so when an email is sent, create an engagement, like for instance, a task in Salesforce, for example. So they are very like easy things. You have the integrations. We did some add-ons. For instance, you can, like if you have Stripe as a payment for a lot of like e-commerce or like digitalized companies, you can also like see all the Stripe account when a call comes in or an interaction comes in. And instead of talking about phone systems, we really talk about the channels. So we have the voice systems, we have the SMS, and we have the messaging part that we are implementing. Okay, everything is like almost finished. So meaning you start from like your job, which is I'm a sales guy or an inside sales using Salesforce. I have a phone system. I plug it to my Salesforce, but then I can augment it by providing other things and having other channels. Like for example, here I'm on Salesforce, so I received an SMS. So I have here the interface, this is the extension. So I can have like SMS threads directly in my interface. And of course I have the freedom to change. I can say I have a Twilio SMS account, I can have like a Telesign account, I can have an Nexmo account, I can whatever. So you're never like completely locked in, and you can like do your own market and pick the solution that you feel is the best for you. Okay, so you have like here all the interface, and the interesting thing also. Okay, so when you send SMS, it's not on this one. Okay, all the interactions will be fully integrated in Salesforce. Okay, so you will get the voice integration, you will get the SMS integration. If your number is WhatsApp enabled, you will have the WhatsApp interactions in your Salesforce. So it's you don't need like to have a cloud telephony system with the Salesforce integration and then do your own integration with Twilio, Nexmo, whatever for SMS. Tell you that because on Hotspot this was one of the requests. Said, okay, now I have a phone number, I have all my telephony. Can I send like SMSs with it, and can I play? Because all this promise of APIs
cloud services looks always great, but then everyone wants something like tailored to himself, and he says, "Oh man, your SMS are great, but they are too expensive. So I have already like an Exmo account. Can I use my account?" That's what happened really like on the customer side. Okay, so you can, the idea is really to customize as far as possible the integrations, the rules, so that the customer has control on what he's having. And also on usage is to have a quick access to all the data. If you have like 4 integrations, you can search across all the integrations. You don't need to switch the apps, and everything is like recorded directly into the integration. And of course, the goal is to be more comfortable for someone on the phone and to solve the inquiries quicker. So there is no lock-in, as usual, no setup costs, no long-term commitment, and you have freedom to switch from phone system, from voice channels to SMS channels to whatever. You're completely free. And yeah, just before, I wanted to show, for instance, we have here Wazo, one of the sponsors, with a super platform. And we did an integration with Wazo, in which we even integrated their soft phone, WebRTC phone, into our extension. So this can also be an idea for other providers. I mean, we're open to integrate more solutions. That's our business logic, is to extend to a maximum. But always thinking of the end customer, who is unfortunately always still locked in. Because after the Avayas, the Alcatels, and whatever, we are replicating the system. We had the idea of doing this before actually Twilio Flex came out. But when I look at Twilio Flex, like always, Twilio is very good like in product thinking, and I think they got it right. The problem is always the same, is that people who are choosing Flex will be locked in. And we wanted to give something more open, and more, let's say, that you can change over time. And also that corresponds to companies. Like if you have a company with 4 voice systems, you don't have to move everything to another phone system. For instance, I think of one, not Flex customer, but like Twilio, like flagship customer was ING Bank. They threw away 18 Avaya call centers, developed like during 2 years to get everything on Twilio. So huge project. And once they finish it, Twilio comes in and makes Flex. So basically, I would say thank you ING for giving the specs to us. And now they have like some generic thing in Flex. But if you look, it's always the same thing. It's like I want a voice system, so it's a Twilio voice system. So we still have to develop some things. I want integrations. I want my Salesforce, my Zendesk, my whatever. I want to send SMS. I want to send WhatsApp. So that's the business, let's say, logic of it. What we wanted to do is, before they actually came out with Flex, was to say, I think they're right, but we needed to be more open and corresponding more to what the users are expecting. So. Yeah, so our goal right now, we are in closed beta. We are working with some Kio users, and we're showing it around. We are also working close with Wazo and one of their integrators. I don't know if Laurent is still here. We're discussing to see how we can implement that, because it's always a pain. I mean, for service providers, they go to a customer, like they're selling Wazo solutions or whatever solutions. They said, oh, I need 3 integrations. Oh, sorry, I have to go home and ask if we can do it. And it's not their job to do it. Yeah, so we're looking for service providers, resellers, voice systems. I spoke with Sangoma an hour ago. So that's more or less the roadmap of the thing. So from the products we did in the last 6 years, it's probably like technically the simplest, but it's the closest to the user requirements. So I'll be happy to talk with anyone I didn't talk to yet. Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Lewis at the back?
Just going to answer there actually.
Okay.
The service provider, we API into that and just strip out all the other options like AIA, for example, so we just choose us as the provider, choose the CRM.
I mean, like in the previous life, I also was in this logic. I also had a company in this area, but I think things changed a lot. Okay, you lock them in, but do you want like a happy or a half happy or half unhappy customer? I mean,
Well, you don't need to bottom it up, you're happy. Is that happy looking? Is that happy? It's not like that. They're not a tech savvy end user. They chose to use a provider.
Sure.
And they don't even engage with resources on the That's not a problem. That's your business.
okay, but are you like if I'm your customer, like I'm locked in for the last 10 years or 5 years, and I said now I'm serving like consumers, and saying I have a Facebook page, I have like a mobile number, and I have WhatsApp Business implemented. What can you offer to me? Can you do it? Yes, we'll do it. Are you going to do it? Or yeah, you're going to develop it.
No, you.
Okay.
The customers are happy with you guys. Yeah. They just ignore the rest of the other options, right? Yeah. I see the point. I mean, of course, you want to have the, but you might not want to show
Simplicity of experience. Just one line.
I know, but the goal for this is really like to empower. I mean, I know there is other things. It's not only about the tools. When you have a customer, it's also a personal relationship. He trusts you, is happy with your support, whatever. But I think it's also important that customers are not limited by the features or the platforms or the choices you've made. Okay, they might stay, but they will feel that next time when they're unlocked, maybe they'll look elsewhere or whatever. But our goal here is really not like to compete with voice platforms or APIs, whatever. It's really like to empower and to think customer what he really needs without taking the customer into very long and very expensive projects. And also for providers to say, yes, I can do it very quickly. And what you ask, I have the solution for you. Okay. And
that was my plan.
yeah.
You realize that there's a quick solution to this problem.
Yeah.
And you're not offering it. They're not doing that happens. They're not really your partners who you are.
Right. But if a voice provider is happy to work with us and is very good at locking in his customers, we're very happy too. You know? Okay.
Any other questions? If not, let's call that a wrap. That was excellent. Thank you, Lewis.
Thanks.
So now, Karel, you can come on down.
Carol Day.
You've got a proper machine, so you have like a proper.
Yeah. Should.
Other side thing.
Yeah.
So Karel is one of the new dads that attend conferences so they get a full night's sleep.
Don't tell that, my wife might watch.
It doesn't matter. When you come back, she's been alone with the kids. It's your responsibility. Again, Karel has been through the full TADS mill in not only presenting and sharing his experiences with Voxist through TADSummit, but also the ideas, the concepts for Voxist. He tested out through TAD at Paris 5 years ago now?
No, not that long. But I'll go.
Anyway, you go first.
So, well, hi everybody. Thank you for having me. I think a lot of you have been there for many times know who I am, but I will just, for the one that haven't met until now, give you a brief feedback. So I work in telecom for around 20 years now. I've set up the first, I was part of the team that launched the first private landline operator in France. I launched the mobile activities of Telefonica in Germany. I launched the Alcatel Mobile brand of headset in the US. I started my first entrepreneurial venture in the 2000 years, 2001, with a company which was doing pricing optimization for the marketing department of operators. And before creating Boxes, I was with Orange. I was the head of product for an app called Liban. We had around 4 million users worldwide, and we were trying to do something, trying to merging RCS with over-the-top. I launched RCS in 2009, so 10 years ago, and I've just heard it's launching again. Wow. So good luck, guys.
My phone, thanks to Google.
Well, no, thanks to my guys. we get the code to Google. Anyway, so during that time, one of the things I worked on was something, kind of old-fashioned, which is voicemail. And when Orange decided to restrict the Liban to specific use cases, which now is mostly making calls to foreign countries, I decided to leave Orange and start Boxes. So I have a small video which gives you an idea of why I said there was something to be done there. Hopefully it's going to work with this song. Let's try that. No, it didn't work. Great.
Oh, you have to go to your sound settings and I put it through the HDMI. Suppose that.
So this is some crazy YouTube personality in the US, but I think he's very good at saying why it's wrong with voicemail, if I can get it running. Okay. Well, we'll go to the next slide then. So mainly the idea is that voicemail is it's pretty much doing nothing more than what you used to do with your tape recorder back in the day, and the reason why it's not really evolving is that voicemail has been invented to answer an issue for the telcos, not for the users, which kind of go back to what Luis was saying earlier. Voicemail was a way for telcos to make more money by getting more call termination. And you can see that because if you look at the apps, they are pretty bad reviews. User are not happy. And why are users not happy is because, it wasn't, the purpose of voicemail wasn't to solve the user problem. And what I think is the actual issue is that voicemail does not longer solve an issue for the user. Normally, the idea behind voicemail should be that you are trying to solve a call, to answer a call instead of the user because that person is not available to take the call. And right now what is happening is either you're going to say, I don't listen to my voicemail, send me a text because you just don't want to listen to your voicemail, or you're going to have people that are going to try to listen to all their voicemail, but they're going to miss important message because they don't know which one are the important one, which one are the not important one. And so in the business context, a lot of the way it was solved for mostly the landlines was, it started having the call center. So instead of joining person that's unreachable, it will be always reachable because there is a call center and they can deal with whatever issue the customer is facing. And I talked to a couple of banks that, who will tell me, oh yeah, it works very well. It happened to be, I'm actually a customer of his bank. And the guy saying it works very well in France because we have great customer center and they can answer all the questions. And as a customer, it's not true. Usually when I call my bank, I want to talk to my guy because he knows my problem. And if I get to the call center, the guy knows nothing about it. It doesn't really solve my issue. And so that's why we wanted to create Voxes as a way to move the voicemail from the old paradigm to the modern technology that we have today. So using AI to actually answer the calls and try to give benefits to both the caller and the caller, because there are sometimes discrepancy between the situation. In the example I gave just before, I don't answer the call, and so I want the person to text me, but that person might be, by example, driving. He doesn't want to text. So we need to solve the issues for both the caller and the caller. So, just to give you a brief feedback on what we built and that I presented in the last few years here. So we started by creating just a visual voicemail, but with some specific features. So we have speech to text. So in the case I just mentioned earlier, I don't need anymore to ask the person to send me a text because he can send me an audio that I can read. So if I am in a meeting, I can very easily figure out, is it important, is it not important. I can also share that with my CRM, with my colleagues. So I can have a specific channel for TADSummit people, and when they give me a voicemail, then my team that work on TADSummit can get that. And we can also work with multiple numbers, so we can have the same voicemail for both my landline and my mobile. So instead of having a different message when you call me on one number or another number, you always have the same way of being reached, and I get everything in one single channel. Which bring us to the next cool feature we've been working on, which is what we call personalized greeting. So one of the things that's also boring is because I don't know who's going to talk to me. Usually with the standard voicemail, I have a boring voicemail that says leave a message because I don't know who's actually listening to that greeting. So with Voxes, we can create different greetings based on a group of people or a single person, and that greeting can be much more personalized. One of the things what we can do is we can actually write the greetings and use keywords. So you can personalize it in an industrial. So I can record my voice. So for my wife, for example, when she calls, she always has my voice saying something sweet, hopefully. Now, if it is my big corporate clients, when they call, they have something that say hi, with the first name of the person, so they feel very personalized, but I don't want to record that 10 times for the 10 people I work with in that company. So then I can use text-to-speech and some intelligent personalization. So we started actually, it was in TADAC 2016 that we had the idea, so it's 3 years ago. We launched in January 2018 in France. So go faster. And what was cool is as soon as we launched, we started making some revenues. So at that time, the model was kind of a B2C model with a freemium approach. So the app is free, and you get the standard, what I call the standard feature, which is already more than usually what you get from an operator, but you have some limitations. So you can have only one personalized routing, and you get only 10 months. And then if you want more, then you need to pay for it. And what was cool is that we have enough people paying that after even a few weeks, the people that pay will pay for all the costs for free. So we are creating a business and getting some margin. By last TADSummit, so we were here in September last year, we had we had 2,000 monthly active users. We were starting to have the first revenue, as I mentioned, but it was still small, and our goal was to really get to the next stage. So that's kind of way back, going back to what I presented last year, now to give you where we are today. So the good news first is that we have seen some good growth. So if you look at the typical growth for like the best CPaaS software, it's around 70% per month. So we are doing like 20, so that's cool. In terms of what's engagement, we have most of our users that come back on a daily user, on a daily basis, and in terms of retention, because we are an app and retention is always a very hard KPI, we are doing better than the most apps. The volume has been growing, so now we have 10,000 monthly active users, which generate around 500,000 calls per month that we have to deal with. And we have a good conversion rate, so I was talking about the fact that we make enough money out of the paid user to pay for the service to everybody. So we are on 4%, which is kind of what Dropbox is doing. So it's going a little lower than that now that we launched in the US. We're probably more like 3.8, but still something that's in theory, because it's a non-bullshit, I will tell you the issue after that. And we have happy users. So I mentioned the apps from operators not getting that good review, but we have more than between 4 and 4.2 depending on the stores and the countries. And our users are quite happy. So we get a lot of reviews of people that say they found that the app is useful. They find that I even had one person saying it's the best app they ever had on the phone. So I don't really believe them, but it feels good to hear that. And people like it because of the UX, which is modern, which is something that often you get. They like it because they can personalize the greeting, so they can finally do some nice for their close friends or for the customer, and it's simple to use. So one thing that I was amazed is a few weeks ago I got a message in the support from a lady that's saying, "Oh, can I make a donation to boxes?" What do you mean by a donation? And if you want to pay, you can upgrade. Well, I'm 91 years old, and the free version is good enough, but I like it very much, so I like to know how I could help. Well, take a paid subscription for a few months, and when you feel you get enough. And so she took a premium version, even if she doesn't use it. Wow, so I have 91-year-old users. No, that said, she's not like the typical customer. A lot of our customers are like in Salesforce. So for them, I have one company, they get between around like 30 voicemail a day per salesperson. So that means for them, there is no way they can listen to all those voicemails. Their days, typically they are in the car, they are going to a customer, and then they have a meeting, and when they go out of the meeting, they have another piles of voicemail. If they go on vacation, they can get 100 voicemail during their vacation, and it's going direct to them, so nobody's going to prove it. So what they like with boxes, and now they can be much faster informed of what's going on if it's an important message, like they are going to visit a client. In the past, what will happen very often is they arrive and the client says, "Hey, I told you I want the gray one and not the pink one." And they're, "Oh, sorry, I didn't have the message." Now they can get those messages. And if they are on vacation, they can make sure that one of the colleagues get all the voicemail, and so the colleague can maybe take care of the calls. Another way voicemail has been becoming something which is important in large corporate in France, at least, and I think that's relevant in many countries now. So in France, the law is very strict about how you can make calls in cars. But even with that, what we have seen is a lot of companies, they've decided to just totally forbid the use of phone in cars, because even if you are technically legally authorized to use the phone system of the car, it's becoming an issue for safety. They have too many of their salespeople, then they can't drive anymore, so they can do their work. So they totally forbid the use of phone in the car. So now you're in your car, you can make calls. When you arrive, you have to use your client. You can't make calls. So what happened? You start having a lot of voice. So that's one of the use that they found interesting. But for us, the idea is to go much further. Is to really create an AI that actually can interact. As Alan was mentioning, the idea we had was something that become called Joyce by Google this year, but that's something we started working before. So again, I had a video here because I can't make the sound. Oh, maybe this one will work. No, something wrong with this. So the idea here, let's go to the next slide and it should give you. The idea here is to create a conversation. So the first use case that we are working on is around booking, making reservation. Currently we have a first version which is for restaurants. So you call a restaurant and you will have a voicemail that tell you, hi, the restaurant nobody is available. Do you want to make a reservation or do you want to leave a voicemail? So if you choose the second one, then you just leave a voicemail and go back to what you've seen just before. Now, if you decide to make a reservation, then you can have actually a conversation with your AI agent that will take a booking and that will be connected behind to the API of the reservation system of the restaurant, so we know, what time they're open, how many tables they have, if they are already, if there is still a table available, etc. And so that's the idea that we discussed last year also. And so since then we've developed it. We started trying to go to market, but the issue for now is that we didn't have enough financing to actually have a fully commercial version. So we still have some rough edge that we need to work on, and not enough resources to work on those, which brings us to the go-to-market. So, as I said earlier, we have a good growth. We now have 10,000 monthly active users, and we have a good conversion rate from a free user to a paying user. The issue is that if we want to use that go-to-market approach, we will need a lot of doors to do customer acquisition. Because we need huge volumes to actually use it for the margin to pay for all the people customers. So right now, when I said the free user paid for the paying user, I'm talking about all the infrastructure, all the system, but not yet for my salary, which I don't have. For the salary of my team, which I do have. And so we decided to change the approach and go to market through a B2B2B approach. So going through marketplace, like the one started with TADSummit, and later on Web Innovation, more recently this is WorldCap. And honestly, the issue there is the time to market. So we had expected that would start generating revenue by early, well, maybe not early, but mid 2019, and we are still actually, so Voice Innovation, we are still in the process of having their channels being trained, and then they got acquired, which is good news, but acquisition usually means that there is a lot of change, and so for now it's things are moving slow. On the TeleStack side, they are working with a huge carrier, and so the integrations and the whole process is like taking 12 to 18 months. So now we are in process with a couple of operators to get there, but that still means that in terms of generating the revenue necessary for the to launch new services, it's being quite slow. So the other way of getting further for us was to raise some money, and we have the chance to have quite a few business owners that join us, and that's how we make a living for now mostly. But those people are mostly entrepreneurs that really understand the field, they understand the needs. But more when you go more to the typical financial VCs in France, the issue we had faced until now is that they still see voicemail as boring. When I first started, they said, well, your AI assistant is great, but that's not going to happen for 10 years. And now they say, oh, well, you're dead, Google already done it, so we're not going to invest. So it's either you will never do it, or it's already done. Anyway, they don't get what we are doing. So for now, it's still a rough road, but we are happy with the fact that users are very happy with the product. There's a lot of very interesting conversation. And so I hope next TADSummit I will come back with talking more about scalability and issues we might face when we move from 10 of thousands of customers to millions of customers, which hopefully we should be able to do because we built everything to be scalable. But that's where we stand after now a little more than 3 years since we launched Boxes. And thanks in big part for TADAC and TADSummit, because as I mentioned, a lot of our partners are people that we met here. So thank you guys. I'm happy to answer any question you might have.
Excellent, thank you, Greg. Any questions for Carol?
I'm guessing you're doing the processing server side, so internet connection is mandatory probably. Do you feel that it's possible to load the model on a phone and do it without internet connection?
Well, the issue with that is that it's a voicemail, so it should happen when your phone is off.
Oh, so you're getting that information from the carrier?
So I'm getting the calls on. So I have I didn't go into the telecom stack, but so we have a telecom stack. So we use actually telestacks to get all the calls, and we do all the processing on the server side with a lot of serverless infrastructure on AWS, a lot of Google Cloud stuff also.
Does that mean that the client needs support to you?
No, so the way it works is a call forward. So the customer gets the call, and that call needs to be forwarded to us. So either it's if we take the mobile example, it's going to be just you do a USSD code to ask for your operator to forward the code to us. With the issue that I mentioned yesterday, which is those USSD code should work in theory. That's based on the GSMA standard from 1995 or 6, something like that. Unfortunately, it's in standard, but a lot of operators they either didn't implement it correctly, so it worked only on 3G, not on 4G, or they decided they won't open it to older customers, so it might depend on your offers. But let's say on the over-the-top offering, that's how you will do it. And in the B2B context, usually that means that you will have to do that in your PABX or in your telecom infrastructure, ask the person who is in charge to set up the call forwarding or to set up a trunk. So, by example, with Web Innovation, that's how we do it. They have a trunk to the platform and they do the routine based on their logic.
Regarding the scheduling part, have you thought about approaching carriers to resell it as part of their solo offer? I think that might be very interesting.
Yeah, so that's part of the discussion we are having, but not direct, because as I said, the issue there is that I don't have the team to do that, because I don't have the funding to pay for the salespeople. So we are going through our partners like TSTAX, Web Innovation, Vidoka, Phonia. And so we have conversation ongoing, but carriers are not always the fastest partners. That's how I killed my first company, so I knew that already. Yeah, so I hope we will get some partnership in the next months.
Any other questions? You'll be around.
I'll be around, and I come back later to talk about something else.
Of course. Okay, thank you so much, Karan.
Okay, so give us 2 minutes to get lunch set up. So, Sebastian, can you give me a hand to get the food upstairs? So just wait here, give us a couple of minutes, and then the food will be ready.
I'll try. No. One of my next transactions. Are you sure?